Hello everyone, it's Tom, a taxi driver, and you're going to join me today for another shift video. I'm in Bayswater and we've got a pre-booked job we're going to take to Heathrow Airport and we'll start from there. Let's go.
This is an ideal way to start off my shift. I have no idea what the streets might be like in London at this time, but if I can guarantee a job like this, it really helps out my day and know that I've got some kind of guaranteed income. It's also nice as well because it's a passenger that I've had before, so there's that familiarity, we can catch up and have a good conversation. So we're running out to Terminal 2. There's a multitude of ways of doing this, but I'm always keen to check the maps before I leave just to see if there's any traffic issues coming up. It recommends to me that we go Bayswater Road, straight through Notting Hill Gate, along Holland Park Avenue, comply Holland Circus and leave that by Shepherd's Bush Green. So I'll go straight through Goldhawk Road, over the roundabouts, left on the continuation of Goldhawk Road, right Chiswick High Road, left Chiswick Lane and bear that round into Dorchester Grove, which brings you out by the Hogarth roundabout, Hogarth Lane, Ellesmere Road, Cedars Road, and it basically becomes the elevated M4. We're out and away to Heathrow. You can see the GSK headquarters. Now that's Big Pharma. On this stretch of M4, there's a permanent 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, and the signage will tell you that it's for air quality. I find it somewhat ironic that it's in the vicinity of a major international airport. This kind of fixed fare job, I'll actually charge more than the meter, as often it takes me quite a bit of time to get to the job for a particular time, so it's not unreasonable to charge this. And for the passenger, it's nice that they get the same familiar face as well. They know exactly what they're getting. And of course, dropping off at Heathrow, it's the ultimatum. Do I join the taxi rank at Heathrow, potentially waiting a few more hours before getting another job? Or do I just drive straight back into town? Now, I've known about this job at Heathrow for a little while, so I've batched some of my work together in terms of emails and doing stuff online, so I can sit and do that whilst at the Heathrow feeder park. So let's go join the rank. We start off in the North Park, and that's often just because it takes a little bit of time to load up in the South Park, so this is kind of your overspill.
My pre-booked job dropped off. Nice gent. He's going to be on his way back home now. Feeder park.
I sit here for about 30 minutes or so before going over to the South Park. Once the reader scans my tag, it takes the money off of my account, it opens the barrier, and it gives me a group number. Now that group number is what comes up on that gigantic screen at the end of the feeder park, and as well as in the canteen, so you can see roughly where you are in the queuing system.
Get all settled in. I'm going to set up my laptop in the back, get the windows open because it's a lovely day, and crack through some work. Now, whilst I'll time-lapse you through this relatively boring taxi rank, I want to share with you the sponsor of today's video and long-time supporter of the channel, Y-Food. Now, Y-Food are your complete meal replacement shake. In addition to the 26 vitamins and minerals you're going to be getting from Y-Food, you're getting 500 calories, so that's going to leave you full and satisfied until your next meal later on, but good blend of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. It's always quite difficult to try and get an adequate amount of protein from the kind of usual lunch options out and about. So this is where it really helps me. And now that the weather's getting warmer and we're heading into summer, they're re-releasing their classic summer flavors, their fruity, mango and strawberry flavors. And it gets even better because it's Y-Food's birthday. They're giving you not 10%, but 20% off site-wide if you use my link down below or the discount code TAXI-YouTube. That's on any of these products, whether it's the more classic flavors, their selection packs, the powders, the bars, or their fruities re-released for summer. You've only got a limited window to get that full 20% discount. That's on the 22nd, 23rd, and the 24th of May, site-wide. Just use that link down below, and that'll keep you sorted. Now, let's see what job I get off of Terminal 5.
Eventually I'm sent through, and luckily the actual rank itself seems to be moving quite well today. I get these finely dressed businessmen who wish to go to Europcar on the Northern Perimeter Road. Now, I've covered a little bit about this before, but at Heathrow we have a system called the Locals system, and basically anything in an immediate perimeter of Heathrow Airport, so it could be hotels on the Bath Road, or in this case, one of the rental car companies. From when I leave the rank, I have 60 minutes to complete that job. So I can drop them off at the Europe car on Northern Perimeter Road, and then I can go back to any terminal of my choice. I might think, you know what, I need to get some fuel for the cab. I can quickly go fuel up before I go back to a terminal. So you often get people say, oh, I'm so sorry for the short job. But so long as it's a local, it keeps you in the system. I get to go back and have another go. Now, some of you have previously asked, what stops any taxi that hasn't gone through the giant feeder park from just joining any terminal? Well, there is a reader on every single terminal and on this buffer portion. So what it will do is that it will scan my tag that then says, right, this cab has been through the feeder park, or this cab has returned from a local. And then the rank marshal can verify on their PDQ machine which is which. There's going to be some sort of an order because they've gone through that reader. They can then quickly suss out which taxi isn't supposed to be there. And not much time at all, I'm straight to the point. I get this lovely lady who wishes to go to central London. She wants Gower Street. It's the Academy Hotel, kind of like the corner of Store Street and Gower Street. Now, whenever you leave Terminal 5 and headed for town, generally the quickest and easiest way of doing it is using a little bit of the M25, but it's always worth checking traffic conditions before leaving. It's often not too badly affected. It will come up sometimes with a bit of red on Google Maps or whatever, but that's often just the actual M25 traffic itself. We're coming off the Spur Road and I'm heading for the M4. So the lanes that are for M4 to get me back into town are generally pretty clear, as you can see here. On jobs heading into central London, it's often a case of how long can I stay on the quick roads for? It's not really worth cutting it up or going through the middle and getting the most optimum route because you're already out on the big roads. So staying on those for as long as possible before you've got to duck into town is usually the best option. So to do that, I'm going to come all the way in on the M4, A4, get ourselves to the Hogarth roundabout, leave that by Great West Road, and I'm going to peel off the slip road to go around the Hammersmith Gyratory. I want Shepherd's Bush Road. And now from here, I can go all the way up and go around Shepherd's Bush Green, because I'm really headed for the West Cross route. I just want to skim around the outside of central London. Or I decide to use this little bit of a cut through, which is right Blythe Road, left Addison Gardens, forward into lower Addison Gardens. However, I think I'm getting a little bit of a fallout from school traffic. This is a Thursday afternoon after all. Eventually gets ourselves out onto Holland Road. Holland Park roundabout is a little bit busy, but leave that by West Cross route and we're soon on the way again. Join that onto the Westway, cruise along the Westway. A little bit busy by the Marylebone flyover. All the way through, peel left at the Euston overpass, over the top there, along past University College Hospital London, down Gower Street, and Gower Street is proper annoying to set just because of how slim it is. In either case, I'm going to be getting out to help my passenger with their cases anyway.
Might as well do a little bit of history now. I've stopped this. We're outside the School of School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, University of London Estate. Got the Senate House up there as well. You might have seen that in my free views video when we was on top of the post building. But also, you know, it's the School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. You see all these creepy crawlies on these little balconies here. They indicate the sort of animals or vermins that can be carrying disease. Patrick Manson was one of the main people behind the School of Hygiene and Tropic Disease. I think so Patrick Manson, his blue plaque is on Welbeck Street. I'm a little bit at ease now because tomorrow's going to be a short day for me. This isn't a typical day, by the way. I just thought this would be fun to come out and film. To start off with a Heathrow job in the right sort of timing. I've had to drive into town, get that Heathrow job, go out to Heathrow, and of course sit out there and luckily get one that brings me back into town. You can watch one of our previous Heathrow videos where it's not been as lucky or as quick as this. I've got to have my windscreen replaced tomorrow because the heating element has packed up on this, so covered under warranty. But it just means that because it's a long job, I can't go and work the full amount of hours I normally would on a Friday. So coming off to a good start today is nice. I'll probably have a bit of a longer day today, finish around about 11 o'clock. As we're pretty close, I'm gonna head there now. Let's see, let's go to Euston.
So after a brief stop on Keppel Street, I head to Euston, as I hear there is some need for cabs there. Now there's quite a few cabs at Euston, but quite a lot of passengers waiting to get in cabs as well. This is the slow loading of the taxi rank. Now I'm not following a taxi into Euston Station, so I have no idea which taxi I might be behind. So I just take note of what could potentially be the last cab. I'm thinking it's going to be this taxi on the right hand side, or if I use the left hand lane, it could be the taxi in that left hand lane. I made a video about the Euston taxi system. I'll leave that up there if you want to learn about how that rank works. I just wait until I see the number plate of the driver who's in front of me. Once they're loaded up, I pick my passenger and away we go. These passengers want to go to Willow Road, Hampstead. This comes to me pretty instantly, and I'll tell you exactly why when I drop this job off. In terms of how we're going to run it, well, it's a little bit tricky. In terms of the map line, we'd ideally want to get ourselves to Enford Street, just run it all the way up Camden High Street, straight through into Chalk Farm Road, Haverstock Hill, via like Southend Road and that kind of caper. However, getting to Enford Street from Euston Station is going to be a little bit tricky. Also added into the fact that Delancey Street off Camden High Street has been closed, meaning that everyone's kind of forced up Camden High Street, and that is a complete nightmare to get through. So initially I head towards Great Portland Street, thinking I can go up Albany Street past the barracks. So what I opt to do is I use Regent's Park. Thinking that I don't want to go anywhere near Camden or the Britannia Junction, I'm going to cut through Primrose Hill. And to be honest, it works pretty well for me. It doesn't look that great on the map, but the way I'm able to neatly get into the park, come out, come back in via Gloucester Avenue. We go past Primrose Hill. I actually feature that in my best 3 views of London video. Regent's Park Road, get the left into Primrose Hill Road, forward and get ourselves over into England's Lane, left into Haverstock Hill. We get ourselves that right into Lawn Road. And on Lawn Road, we go past the Isakon building, a somewhat famed architectural marvel. And then that brings us out onto Southend Road, and then from there, I can just forward it all the way through. It's not the prettiest looking route on the map, but around this time of day, 4:30, 5 o'clock-ish, it's just good to keep the cab moving. As I head up East Heath Road, you can see the affordable art fair setting up on this part of Hampstead Heath.
Willow Road always stands out for me because I remember it coming out on a knowledge point sheet. So these are like the mock exams that come from examiners. I remember being asked by Mr. Swire, I'm thinking, why number 2 Willow Road? If you wanted to give a street, fine, Willow Road, whatever. So I turn up one day to go point number 2 Willow Road, and I look outside and there's a little plaque, and it's the National Trust. And I get a little bit more engaged about it. I'm like, why is this the National Trust? It just looks like a house. And I learn it's actually the home of, personal home of Erno Goldfinger. He's the architect that worked on Balfour Tower, Trellick Tower, amongst others. And it's also said to be where Ian Fleming got the name for his baddie Goldfinger in, of course, the James Bond title by the same name. So it's amazing just how serendipitous. There's those little one-off chance encounters that you do years and years ago, and you think, I'm never going to use this knowledge ever again. Who's going to want to go to Willow Road? And there you go. You never know where your knowledge is going to come in useful. It's 5 o'clock now. I'm going to go Hampstead. I'm going to come down through Camden, and I've got nothing by then. I'm going to have a little sniff and see what St Pancras is saying. You never know, there might have been a train that's cleared out all the cabs. So let's go now.
Nothing at the stables, so I carry on and I eventually settle for St Pancras. Now, we get there, there's clearly no cabs on the rank, which is always the best sight. And it's a little bit slow loading, but I eventually get a passenger in. And she wishes to go to Lil College Street. This is quite near the Houses of Parliament. Midland Road is relatively clear. We get ourselves right out onto the Euston Road, and I'm thinking I'm just going to keep this super simple. I'm just going to go down Gower Street, forward into Bloomsbury Street, forward Shaftesbury Avenue, at the junction of Cambridge Circus, I'm going to get a left into Charing Cross Road, and we go down the east side of Trafalgar Square. Now, you can tell by St Martin's in the Fields roughly what time of day it is by the sheer number of cyclists. It's clearly going home time. This is one of those times of day that really frazzles you because there's so much to look out for. Down Whitehall, forward Parliament Street, straight over Parliament Square, St Margaret Street, Old Palace Yard, Abingdon Street, right into Great College Street, left Little College Street, and we'll set the lady just here.
I'm on Great Peter Street, quickly going to go to Lung, and then carry on.
It's a little bit of a trek before I get my next job. Coming along Caxton Street, I get stuck in these temporary lights, but make note of the gentleman who is on the taxi rank here. This taxi rank serves Buckingham Gate and the Taj Hotel. Now, as I turn right onto Buckingham Gate, there's this sort of service apartment on the right hand side. So this concierge is trying to hail me down, but I'm quite quick to let him know that he should be trying to hail the taxi down the street. That's the whole idea of having a stand of taxis there. It's a reserve, a pile of taxis for the hotel, for the concierge of any of these apartments or establishments nearby. It's still relatively busy in the Buckingham Palace area as they're still packing away from the coronation. And once I'm through into St James's Street, I pick up this lady here just after the lights. She wishes to go to number 22 Grosvenor Square. It's one of those sort of private members clubs establishments just on that northwest corner of Grosvenor Square. I sometimes drop it short because to get all the way around to the top can be a bit long-winded. Forward into Dover Street, where Dover Street, I always get stuck behind a bin lorry. Doesn't matter what time of day, it just seems like there's permanently a bin lorry in Dover Street. Eventually we work through, get the left into Hay Hill, right Berkeley Street, go around Berkeley Square, and I'm going to leave that by Davies Street. Left into Mount Street, bear right into Carlos Place, and that gets us around to Grosvenor Square. Now, trying to get the passenger there as quick as possible, I use Blackburne's Mews. It's this small little mews behind the old American Embassy. And what it does, it just ensures you cut out 2 sets of traffic lights in case you went to Park Street. Always nice. Of course, there's only a few use cases when you would actually use it. This happens to be one of them because then I can set the customer on Upper Brook Street. As I come past the Lansdowne Club on Fitzmaurice Place, I let this Vito driver out. Now, this is perfect cabbie etiquette in action. We get to Bolton Street and I'm thinking, he's going to take this job. But he's either not put his light back on or he's beckoned the passenger to come to my cab, because you can see the passenger walk straight past his taxi and come into mine. Nice, thanks mate. This passenger wants to go to the American Embassy at 9 Elms Lane. Super simple. Once you get yourself to Hyde Park Corner, it's basically a straight line out of there. You've got to head to the Vauxhall Gyratory direction. Down Grosvenor Place, and we bear that left into Lower Grosvenor Place. Forward into Bresenden Place, leave that by Vauxhall Bridge Road, and we forward all the way down to Vauxhall Bridge. Not too sure what this car is doing sitting in oncoming traffic, or what that one's doing jumping the red light. We go past Penguin Random House on the left hand side, over Vauxhall Bridge. You can see the back of MI6 there. There was actually something in the news recently that MI6 are recruiting cab drivers. They want drivers who've specifically got the knowledge. So, I don't know, maybe I'll give that a go. Maybe I shouldn't have told you, because then you'll know if I end up working for MI6. We go around the Vauxhall Gyratory. These always look super confusing, but it's just a case of picking lanes. Forward into 9 Elms Lane. There always seems to be like a new building on 9 Elms Lane. It just, out of nowhere, they just build them up. I mean, I imagine London Borough of Lambeth just never say no to a planning application. Honestly, it's like skyscrapers in New York everywhere around here. I'm kind of fitting being close to the American Embassy. We pull left here and we drop the gentleman here. And I'm quite lucky to get an on and off job here. It's one of the best things about setting in this area. There's not a lot of cabs passing nearby, so it can sometimes happen here. This gentleman just wants to go to Marylebone Station. Now, I don't know why, but when I leave this forecourt here, obviously you're forced left back onto 9 Elms Lane because of the weird traffic island in front of you. But I'm actually sort of struggling to think, oh, do I choose Chelsea Bridge or do I use Vauxhall Bridge? And when you look at it on a map, you kind of are halfway between the two of them. But instantly I remember that Sloane Street is closed northbound, which would make this journey an absolute nightmare. And of course, once I get to Vauxhall Bridge, it's very much a straight line. It's just an extension of what we've done Now, as I'm a taxi driver, as we turn left into Neat House Place, I can take the right and use Wilton Road. This is great because it neatly cuts out Bridge Place and Eccleston Bridge, meaning that I've either got to come along and then turn a right into Buckingham Palace and then get to Grosvenor Gardens that way, or go through Belgravia and then take a little bit of time coming out onto Hyde Park Corner via Grosvenor Crescent. Straight through Victoria Street, Grosvenor Gardens, Grosvenor Place, bosh. Now, remarkably, this is actually quite light for traffic for one, other than Park Lane, of course. Now, this lower part of Park Lane, what I and every taxi driver are generally doing is that buses always pull in at this bus stop on Park Lane. In fact, I don't actually get why they've got rid of so many segregated bus stops where the bus gets to pull in away from traffic. Right, this is a separate rant, I'm going to go on it now. It's super inefficient when people get on buses because each person has to tap their contactless card or Oyster card to get on the bus. And the bus can't move until everyone has done that. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, everyone would just get on the bus would start moving, and then a conductor would check everyone's tickets. A far greater and more efficient system. But we don't have that now. So as a result, the bus has to stop and wait. They don't have a separated place to pull in, so all the traffic just has to sit and wait patiently behind the bus. So from here, we just go all the way up Park Lane, around Marble Arch, into Edgware Road. From Edgware Road, we get our right into George Street, left Seymour Place, right York Street, and then we get a left into Enford Street. I still get a little bit scared by this every time because this is one of those school streets where they either shut the road during school hours or you get a £60 fine for driving down there. So even though I'm probably out of the hours, you still have to take a brief moment to look at the signage and go, is it that time? Sets you up very neatly for Harewood Avenue so I can get a right into Malcolm Place and set the gentleman just before the taxi rank. Now as he gets out, he looks at me through the window and says, "You should go home, mate." And I'm thinking, excuse me? The only thing I can think of here, because we had a sort of an okay conversation when he gets in, we talk about the traffic and blah, blah, blah. And he probably means, I hope you get home soon, or I hope you don't have to work for too long. But it just comes out as, "You should go home, mate." After dropping this gentleman, I do something that I rarely do in the cab, and that is stop.
This is probably a great time to pull up and eat some dinner. I'm also going to do a little bit of working out. I'm doing a workout routine at the moment where you do trigger sessions, so you use bands. So I'm going to do those and then we'll get back to work, I think. Not a bad place to stop in the inner circle of Regent's Park. So let's do that. There we go. Chicken and rice, mushroom, peppers, bit of fajita seasoning.
At this point, it's quite a substantial drive through Mayfair and into the West End. You can clearly see by cabs being on ranks and possibly the time of day that it's going to be a little bit of a struggle at this hour. I go through Mayfair, St James's, Shaftesbury Avenue, Dean Street in Soho. It's clearly a Thursday. Just check out all these people having a post-work drink in the pub. Eventually come out onto Oxford Street, but there's way too many taxi lights. So I opt for a little bit of a different tactic. I pull off and go into Berners Street. Whilst I'm letting these people across the zebra crossing, I hear the all too familiar whistle of a concierge. Nice. Just managed to grab this one, and this lady wishes to go to the Rocker restaurant on Aldwych. She lets me know she's a little bit late. She's not too pressing on this, which is nice. From here we just get the right into East Castle Street, right into Newman Street, and pull ourselves out onto Oxford Street. Oxford Street, forward New Oxford Street, Bloomsbury Way, Bloomsbury Square, Vernon Place, right into Southampton Row, forward Kingsway, left on the Aldwych, set her down on the left there. It always amazes me when people are late and they're on the phone, but they still happily continue their conversation and delay getting out of the cab even though we are at the destination. And again, I have to go on a little bit of a hunt. There's not too much activity in the city. I go up Chancery Lane, Holborn, nothing there. I'm thinking, let's get ourselves into Covent Garden. Wiggle our way around, and as I come down Upper St Martin's Lane, I'm greeted with these wonderful works by Cadent Gas. I'm fortunate enough to pick up this couple here along Long Acre. They just want to go to the NYX Hotel. Now, look at this on a map. It's just what has Westminster and partially Camden as well done with Covent Garden. You've got to go Long Acre, get ourselves right Endell Street, forward Bow Street, left Tavistock, over Catherine, left in a Drury Lane, come out via Kemble and that, left Kingsway, and then pull yourself back into High Holborn, Southampton Place, get the right out onto Bloomsbury Square, forward Vernon Place, forward Theobald's Road, to then eventually get into that little NYX. Here's some other options that I could have done before they screwed up Covent Garden. I mean, just look at it. It's so much neater, isn't it? Now, after dropping off, I want to head into the West End again, but not into Covent Garden because we don't want to get stuck in that works we just saw. So I head for the Strand, over King Charles I Island, and I'm thinking I'm going to head around the St James's area. And I grab these couple of gents outside the Mark Mason's Hall on St James's Street. They want to go to Paddington, Parade Street. This is one of those jobs I could probably get the outline tattooed on me somewhere because it's just so distinct and quirky. I think if ever I develop the dementia later on in life, if someone could just orate this route to me or show it on a map, that will be my nostalgia therapy because it's pretty iconic. You do it so much. I opt to use Bennett and Arlington Street again, going past the Ritz. This time going up Dover Street, I'm lucky that there isn't a bin lorry there. Left Hay Hill, go around Berkeley Square as we did before. And we need to pull ourselves out onto Park Lane. The usual, Davy Street, Mount Street, Carlos Place, Grosvenor Square, forward Upper Grosvenor Street, through Grosvenor Gate, and that pulls you out onto Park Lane. From here, we work our way around Marble Arch, into Bayswater Road. We're going to get the right into Hyde Park Street. This is the little Parade Street shuffle that we have to do. Hyde Park Street, Hyde Park Crescent, Southwick Street, past the Monkey Puzzle, left Sussex Gardens, right Norfolk Place, left Parade Street, set down wherever is safe and convenient. Sorted. I have to get all the way to Piccadilly before I see the lightsabers of the concierges outside the Ritz. I mean, he looks like a groundsman at an airport, you know, pulling a plane into like a standing or something. Just look at that. Now, these people just want to go to Bond Street Station. If I wanted to literally take them to Bond Street Station on Oxford Street, i.e. if I punched it into the sat-nav, here's a couple of options of how that might look. However, because I have the knowledge, I know that there's a very nice and neat access to Bond Street Station on Davy Street. So we can go straight up the middle and it's a much quicker, convenient journey for the passengers. Saves them money, saves me time so I can get onto the next job and earn more money. For the millionth time today, I've got to get into Berkeley Square. From there, leave that by Davy Street, run it all the way up, and there you go, there's your Bond Street Station. Nice. A bit more of a hunt again through Mayfair, and I eventually pick up these gents at Regent Street, St James's. Nice, short job, they just want to go to the Hilton Park Lane. As I'm going up Regent Street, St James's, I take the left into Jermyn Street. Right St James's Street and work our way back onto Piccadilly. Now, to set the Hilton Park Lane, we don't want to go round Hyde Park Corner, so we use the nifty little street of Brick Street. Takes us round the back of the Sheraton Park Lane, right down street and left onto Hertford Street. Then we can drop the other entrance to the Hilton Park Lane just. Moving off, I'm quite quick to pick up on Old Park Lane itself, just on this little roundabout here. Now, the lady wants to go to the Marriott Grosvenor Square. She actually repeats Grosvenor Square, possibly because sometimes some people get confused between Marriott Grosvenor House. Now, normally what I would do is I'd run it from the west, but that access was actually shut earlier. There was a road closed if you're accessing it from Grosvenor Square. So I've got to access it from the east. It's a little technical. We use Pittshead's Mews, left Derby Street, right Curzon Street, left Queen Street, Mayfair, getting ourselves right into Charles Street, going past the Chesterfield Hotel, and left into Berkeley Square. From here, we've just run it all the way up Davy Street so we can get that left into Brook Street. From Brook Street, we can then get the right into Duke Street, round into the forecourt, and we set down there. Nice.
Now, it's that time in a shift where it feels like I'm driving through custard. Traffic gets a little bit heavier, it's just that little bit stickier to get around. and you know that post 11 o'clock they'll come in and they'll do something daft like shut Park Lane or shut Trafalgar Square. So next big job out, whether it's west, east, south, whatever, that's it, my night's done. Final little hunt around. I'm hoping maybe Wigmore Street might be a bit of a giver. Let's see what we get.
We pick up this lady on the side door of Selfridges, Duke Street, and she wishes to go to the Berkeley Hotel, Wilton Place. Now, I'm not too sure why, but I completely miss Picton Place, which would have been a nice way of cutting out a couple of traffic lights. But no bother, we can do the left into Wigmore Street and come down Orchard Street and get ourselves to Park Lane that way. Orchard Street, forward North Audley Street, and we turn right into Green Street. We come along Green Street, and I can see why that driver's probably done that reversal out, and that's because the very endmost part is shut onto Park Lane. And the lady actually asks if she can quickly nip into the petrol station. Just wants to grab something. Fine, not a problem. Just sit and wait there for a bit before we carry along Park Lane, round Hyde Park Corner, leave that by Knightsbridge, left Wilton Place, and we drop at the Berkeley Hotel.
A lot of you enjoy these videos, but some of you want to know exactly how much these journeys cost. So I've made a video about that, and I'll leave that on screen now.
Oh look, there's one last job.